So yeah, let's record. So the exercise that is today is this phone store. Let me show you what it's going to look like when it's done. Maybe that'll be easier. So I've got a solution here. If I click on now, what you'll see is I've got this web page. We've got two web pages. This one here is the buying phones, and I'm going to just close all of these. Just have one. Yeah, even I'm going to close that. So I've got that one. Let's get the other one, which is the product store. So we've got these two pages, and yeah, so we got that. Now what you're seeing, what you're looking at the moment, this is an adaptive layout. What do I mean by an adaptive layout? As I change the size of the width actually of the screen, you're actually getting different things presented. Things are presented in a different way. So that's what we mean by adaptive. Now, let me show you what I mean by how that is adaptive and how something else is not. So what I could do is I could open up the and so what I've got is I've got an adaptive CSS applied here. Now, what I should do while I'm here looking at this is let's just go and look at that well, no, I'll show you the effects, then we'll go and look at the screens. But you will see that we've got this very important thing in the head here. Please have a look at that. Put that in your mind. We're using a meta tag. The meta tag is called viewport, and the width is going to be the thing that is going to be affected by the meta tag. So what we're doing is we're able to use a meta tag to affect the width of the when the width of the document is affected, then things change. Now everything else in there I hope looks familiar. I mean, it's basically just a page that you had before, which was like your product list page. But what we've done is we've added a tag in the head, and we've also got a style sheet there. So that's that one. What I want to do is I'm going to change this CSS because I got three CSSs going here. I'm going to change that. And if I can find because my page is such a mess, I'm sorry. Let's put this to the side here a bit. And that. And it should be one of these, I guess. No, it's none of them either. So I'm just going to double click on the rotten thing. Yeah, here. So I shouldn't put that away. So I changed now what I've done now is I've just, oh no, have I done anything? Let's go back and look at that file. My apologies. I was product store answer. I changed that to that style sheet. Maybe I didn't save it. Yeah, probably didn't save it. Yeah, there we go. So then when I change this, yes, so we see that things are different. Things are quite different with the CSS. Notice this one. This one is the CSS. Now what's happening there? Do you see when I reduce the width? Nothing actually changes with the width or the way that anything is being represented. This you could say, I guess, is like a fixed style. So that's one. Now just and try and keep. You're going to have to concentrate on this. Try and keep track of what's going on here, right? So that was using the CSS without adaptive and without fluid. I'm going to change it to fluid now. And then I will show you each of these different CSSs. So this is now the fluid CSS, and it looks the same as the fixed, but when I change the width of the screen, the width of the individual elements inside the screen changes until I get to a certain minimum width. Now, up to there, that's stuff that you've seen before, right? You've seen this adaptive, you've seen this fluid. But the new thing that you haven't seen and that we're showing you today is this adaptive. And so I'm going to save that. And again, we'll look at this page. With the adaptive, we've got a much nicer look probably, but what we see is with different widths, the whole thing changes, right? We change the number of columns, all right? We change the way things are oriented on the page. We're not doing indiscriminate sort of changes in the sides of the images. They do change a bit, but not completely, right? And we end up with a very narrow window. We have a nice display there, which is what we'd want to have in a mobile phone. So if somebody was looking at this web page on a mobile phone, this is what they'd see. So let's have a look and see how they do that. I will go to the adaptive first, and that's this one here. And so we can see what's happening. Now remember, in order to make this work, you had to, in the page where your HTML was, you had to put a meta tag in to basically initiate the viewport so that the viewport is able to notice changes in the width. So we do this with this meta tag. So once we've got that meta tag set up, okay, then we can do some, have I got the adaptive? Yes, I have. So we can do some things. Now, let's find, here we go. That what we've got, okay, so above this, we've got a bunch of CSS code, which just looks similar to everything else we've done, right? But then we've got these at media commands. The at media commands, what they do is they are sensitized by the width of the screen, because that's what we did with the meta tag, right? We set the meta tag to notice the width of the screen. So when the width of the screen is at different widths, different things happen. Now notice we've got a max, we're using max width. That works with that width sensitization that we did with the meta tag. When the max width is 1000 pixels, so we basically got a break line. Above 1000 pixels, so let's say the width of the page is 1100 pixels, then all of this stuff above is the only thing that's going to happen. So if we have the width at 1200 or 1300 pixels, then what we're going to have is we're going to have a max width of the container of 1200 pixels. We're going to be using percentages for the width of the product class. That's familiar to you. I hope the image will be percentized inside the product. So this 31% product class, that's straight out of a lab that we did before. I hope I don't have to explain that, but that allowed us to have three widths, three columns. So if the width of this container is more than 1000, then the stuff above will happen. But if the width becomes less than 1000, so that's why max will kick in, then some things will change. Some things will change. So what will change? We'll change, this is the main one. We will change the width of the container that holds the product, the class of product, to 46%. So think, what's going to happen there going from 31% to 40%? What's going to actually happen? And so I think this is on adaptive width. So here we are looking at the width is more than 1000, right? Now the max width of the entire page is 1200. So this is more than 1000. So more than 1000, we got our 31%, 31%, 31%. When I hit 1000, boom, then we go to 46%, 46%. So we're forcing it to go from 3 columns to 2 columns just by changing the width. But we had to, it only works because of this at media command. So that's really quite important that you see that at media command, right? It only works. So now I've got 2 of those going. I don't really want, do I want to close all the tabs? No, just this one. Well, maybe I do want to close all the tabs. So but notice, where is this stuff going to be effective? This is going to be effective between the widths of 1000, because that's the maximum, and 700, because we've got another media command at 700 that's going to kick in. So between 1000 and 700, we're going to have our product class, and our product class is surrounded by this dotted line. I hope you remember this. It's from the previous labs. I hope you remember this. So so you could tell we're in that zone here we're in between 1,000 and 700. We know that because we got our 246% there going. They add up to less than 100, and the leftover represents our margins in between the classes. So you'll know what happens when I keep squeezing this. It's going to click in a second. Now, yeah, that's the barrier, or the marker, or whatever you want to call it, between above 700. So that's what we're in now, above 700, but less than 1,000. Now below 700. So what's going to happen in below 700? What we do is there's not a lot going on here. We allow the product to take up 95%. 95%. So that's going to be one element in the width. It's taking up 95%. The leftover is going to be these channels on the sides. So this form thing is for another page. I'll show you the form page in a minute. So forget all that form stuff. Yeah. All right. So most of this is just to do with so really for this page, the only stuff there is going to be this. To see the other one, I would have to open the form page. So let me do that. So the form page is this one. And so it's a little bit different. Let's check to see what is our, okay. So we're using adaptive layout. So that's good. So that means that if we go back and look at the CSS that we were looking at a second ago, so these things are for the form. Come back to me, form. Here it is. Oh, goodness gracious. Not that one. Yeah, all right. So what's happening with the form here with the adaptive layout? What do we notice? The product takes up 95% of the width of the screen. This is the product element here, which is surrounded by the dotted line. The image takes up 20% of the product. That's about right. And then we've got the image floating left, and we've got a little checkbox there too. But the image is floating left so that the label can sit beside it. Yeah, so that's that floating left. The description is the font size is large, and yeah. So really, to see the difference in this, let's see if there's any smaller size. I think 700 is the last that we're doing on that. Yes. So basically, anything less than 700 is going to be displayed like this. And what you'll see is that there is some sort of limit on how far we can crunch down. We do have a few pixels that are hard there, not much, 30, 20, but we have, yeah, the maximum width is 700, and there is no minimum width except for the elements inside them. If we looked at the image, it's not really styled differently here, so we'd have to look and see how it was styled originally. And yeah, the image is set to 80% of the product. And yeah, so yeah, I'm just looking to see if there's any fixed width stuff here. Not really. We do find that image can get kind of small. It's sort of limited to about that, which is going to be sort of our margins and our. I think this one here, the size of the font, that's actually going to limit it a bit, and the other things there. So I hope that sort of makes a little bit of sense to you. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the form, and we're going to change the CSS to look at the fluid. All right, kind of the same as the other. When I change that, you see this all changes. And now fluid, you should be familiar with. What's going to happen there is, okay, beyond a certain, there's a limit that you can't make it any smaller, right? And we are limited by things like the font in there. That's a H2. So we can't really crunch that down any more than that. But once we get to our minimum limit, we can expand out to our maximum. And I guess we've got a maximum of like 1,200 pixels. And so that's our fluid with crunches or not. We can go and look at adaptive. Oh, we did adaptive, right? We can look at it without either fluid or adaptive. And so this is kind of like a fixed. And so we see that that hasn't crunched down at all. It's got its 1200 max, but the actual images and the different elements inside here, the products, they are not changing their width. So let's now have a look at some more CSS. The CSS this is the CSS fixed. So I hope that you can see this here. And this is what we started with. We've got a width of 1200. That's our page width. Okay. And we've done some other things. The width of our product, this box that things are in, that's been fixed. And so that's why when we make the width of the window smaller, we see our product doesn't change. And yeah, the image has also got a fixed width when we start out, 300 pixels. It's not going to change. So that's our fixed width. Hopefully that looks familiar to you. We got a fixed width container, we got fixed width class, and we got a fixed width image. Then if we change that and look at the style, sorry, the fluid, and somebody is trying to comment to me. Mark me present. Yes. How does the app media work? Yes. Okay. So the app media, there's two parts to it. And so hopefully we can see that here, that's only in the adaptive, right? We're in the fluid at the moment. Fluid kind of looks like something that we did before, I hope. We still got a width for our container, but we've got a max width and a min width in this case. And then everything else inside there, we're doing our product class, making it a %. And I think we're doing our image, well, yeah, the image doesn't seem to have really changed, right? Let's see, let's have a look. So I've changed, this one is the fluid CSS. Let's go and change the our form to do fluid. And oops, save that. And so with our, is this fluid? Yeah. Yeah, so it's not quite, it's kind of dodgy, isn't it? I mean, we're not able to really do a lot with that. That is fluid. So let's have a look at the buyer form and sorry, the fluid. What we got is we got a maximum, but we're not actually changing the width of the image at all. And so that image was already set to like that 300 thing. Yeah, no, it's set to 80%. Let's change this, make sure I'm looking at the right thing. Let's change this up to, that's the, you know what, I think that maybe that one in, well, let's see. Let's change this up to adaptive, because then I can address that question that the student has just asked me. So change this to adaptive. Well, seems I'm looking at the wrong form. Let me try this again. No wonder it wasn't changing the way I expected. Yeah, hold on. It says product listing, phone store, adaptive, style sheet. This is product by form answer. Well, this is kind of unfortunate. It's not sort of working the way I expected. So I think what's happened is that I've messed up the CSS link. It's not sort of working, and that's probably when I. Okay. All right. So. Yeah.
There you forget A in adaptive. Capital A.
Yeah, it should be all right though. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
No, I think.
You forgot style, font style adaptive, right?
Phone store. No, we can see
Photo
it here.
style adaptive.
Is it? You are correct. So that was me. No wonder that wasn't working, right? So thank you for sharp eyes on that. There we go. Cannot believe I did that. So yeah, so the adaptive, what we're seeing there is, as you see, nothing happens until we get to well, what we're having happening here, there is something happening. It's, you see that's going to, there is a percent effect in there, and then we get to, then we get to things rearranging on the screen. So there is a percent effect, and then things rearrange on the screen. That's for adaptive. And so what happened is I deleted the word style. And who said that with the sharp eyes? And
Amir?
yes, yeah, good work. All right, so with the fluid, we see that we've got these 3 columns are possible. And that's, anyways, let's try and answer now the question about adaptive layout. I just want to make sure that we've all got that and you've all had a good look at this so you can do this assessment. You must put into the head a meta tag. This is the meta tag that you put. I hope you've got that. Then let's look at our adaptive. So there's 2 parts. First, we sensitize it with a meta tag. Then in the adaptive layout, what we've got is above where any changes, and read this from top to bottom. So basically what's going to happen is when the page loads, it's going to read the CSS from the top, and all of this stuff is going to happen. So the way you can read this is reading from top to bottom. Okay, all of these things are going to happen. We've got our width set. We got all this set. All of this is done. And then this is like an if statement. It's like a branch. You could read it as, if the width of the window becomes less than 1000, then do all this stuff. Now, it's very important that there's an open curly brace, and then there's a closed curly brace here that includes all of this CSS. And what that means is, this is the result. It's like a computer program. If this happens, then we're going to do all of these things. So but you have to realize that the computer program has run so that all of this stuff at the top has happened already. And we've got it all set up like that. And then if the width becomes less than 1000, then we change some colors in the body. Is that right? Because what was the body color before? Yeah, it was 555. So we're going to change the color to 111. We changed the margin, changed the padding. And the main thing that really happened was we changed the width of the product class to 46% of the container in which it sits. And the effect of that is to line up so that we have 2 instead of 1 column will fit beside each other. So that's what's going to happen there. So then, bearing in mind, like you said, like I was saying, you're reading this like a computer program from top to bottom. The next thing that will happen is like another if statement. You can think of this as another if statement. Okay, so now we're less than 1000. But what will happen if we're actually less than 700? Now, if you're less than 700, you're still less than 1000. So all of this stuff will still be true. Right, all of that stuff will still be true, but we're going to do some other changes. We're going to change the width of the product. So it's actually going to change from this. So this will no longer be true because it's being changed by this. So now the width is going to be 95, and that's going to be 1 column. Now, if this CSS is applied in the form, and that only happens in the form here, if we've got a form, then we're going to have some other stuff happening. So let's have a look at what that other stuff is going to be. If there's a product inside the form, so yeah, we do have a class called product inside the form somewhere, I suppose. There it is. If there's a product inside the form, then it's going to it's going to have these things happen to it. So yeah, it'll have a maximum width of 600 pixels. So if I change, the form itself won't take up the whole page Like here, it's taken up the whole page, right? But when I change it to adaptive, it won't take up the whole page now. So let's go and change this back to adaptive. And don't hit enter like I did before. That was a bit of a mistake. So what I see is I can stretch this out as much as I like, but this will never be more than 800. Okay, it'll never be more than 800 in the form. So that's being done by these special commands here that are just for the form. And yeah, so we got the image will only ever be as maximum of 20%. It'll always be floated to the left. The description is going to be a font size large, and that's going to limit how small we can make this. I hope that this has sort of made sense to you. I'm going to kind of stop